Tell us a little bit about Dave's version of simulated pressure and what you guys were running, and how similar or different was that from what Dan was doing with Kirby and Shu at Georgia?
Yeah, a lot of similarities. I think anytime you run simulated pressures, obviously for us, we feel like they're very beneficial, but you can do them out of different coverages. For us, there was a couple of coverages that we really majored in at Baylor. Coach Lanning, same thing. Same coverages, okay, with some of the simulated pressures that we ran, but also a quarter, half concept of simulated pressures that we didn't really explore as much at Baylor. So been able to kind of brainstorm, bring a few things from there, but really learning a lot from what Coach Lanning and them did at Georgia as well. So it's been awesome.
When you're first teaching that to your room in particular, because I realize it can come from any direction, but
yes.
For deep safeties, it's usually pretty exciting when they get a chance to have their name called in that way.
Absolutely.
So how, when you're first installing it, how is your room received, learning about this and seeing when, yes, they can be engaged in that way?
Yeah, really well. They're very excited about it. They like, everybody kind of likes, like the sneak attack, right? That's kind of how they look at it. So you're kind of hiding a lot of times and maybe showing one thing, but you're playing something else. At the same time, they have the ability to blitz or rush and do something that a lot of times the other guys get to do, and potentially make a sack or a TFL. So all those things are exciting to them, and they've enjoyed that part of the concepts that we've installed.
Well, how does Bennett fit into that? Because I know he's splitting time with you and the nickel spot particularly, but do you look at him as I don't want to say purely a box safety, but how do you look at him as a deep safety in that boundary role and what he can offer in that way?
Yeah, very versatile player. I think Bennett can do multiple things just because of his athletic ability, but also just his mental makeup. So I think at the end of the day, he'll be a huge asset for our defense, and we'll be able to utilize his skill set on the field probably in multiple ways.
Can you speak to you and
No Whittington on this side.
Can you speak to you and Dan's personal history, and when he got this job, were you expecting to be involved in his staff, and kind of how long have you guys known each other?
Right. So we both were assistant coaches back in 2014 at Sam Houston State University, and Coach Lanning was coaching the corners, and I was a special teams coordinator at the time, and coaching on the offensive side of the ball. And we were very close back then. Actually lived on the same street, like right across from each other. My sisters, I was from Huntsville, Texas, where Sam Houston is. So my sisters actually babysitted the boys, a few times when him and Sophia needed to, maybe go out to eat for a dinner date and things like that. So we've been in close, stayed in touch over the years. In the off seasons, we've done kind of an annual clinic and met up, and so I was really excited for him when he got this job, and it was just a great opportunity. Couldn't pass it up. We're at the O, guys.
Working in the defensive backfield with Coach Martin, there's been a couple guys like Triquez and Brian Addison that are kind of seems like they're hopping back and forth between the safeties and the corners. What's that like? Just emphasizing the position versatility.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's really stood out. Okay, with our secondary, you got Bennett, right? You got Triquez, you got Brian, right? Those guys, man, they're long, they can run, they're athletic, right? But they also, have a great, mental aspect that they bring to the game. And so their versatility is really going to help us right now. For us, we're trying to dual train so, we can get the 5 best guys out there, and at the same time we can build depth at multiple positions. So it's been really good this spring. I think they've really taken ownership in some of those things, and I think you'll see a lot of growth from them in this upcoming season.
And we see you going through warm-ups with the guys. You're one of those high-energy coaches out there. What's been your favorite part, of the day or just of the practice when you're out there?
All of it. It's probably hard to pinpoint. I really enjoy the competition periods. We've done a lot of that recently, especially situational football. We want to be, situational experts. And, Coach Lanning has really scripted a lot of, 2-minute red area, third down, second down to third down, right? That way our players can get a feel for it before we ever get to Saturdays, right? They kind of know, all right, what to be thinking, how to play certain things, and at the same time, maybe even anticipating calls that come out and stuff like that. So.
How beneficial for you guys as a new staff together is it to be in that situational football and just being able to make calls like with
with your new colleagues as well?
Yeah, huge. Yeah, it's probably helped us just as much as it's helped them, to be honest. That way we can kind of get a feel for each other and kind of what we're thinking, or what Coach Tosh is thinking, what Coach Lanning is thinking. We've definitely studied that. Like in spring break, we kind of went through with Coach Lanning how maybe he would call a game at Georgia, right? What he's thinking call-wise in these different situations, maybe field zone related, right? Maybe down and distance related, maybe portions of the game, related as far as like quarters and time on the clock.
What's been the biggest challenge transitioning those guys, like TriQuest, to be like so versatile? Has there been a challenge, or has it been like more of a smooth process than you thought?
No, it's always a challenge, right? You're learning maybe two things as opposed to one. I think the way we teach, we try as much as possible to teach conceptually, right? So that way, hey, you can say it's the same as, right? It's something else that maybe they've already done. At the same time, right, I think extra time, right, is involved. But those guys are so invested, and they want to be good, and they want to succeed. And so at the end of the day, they have no problem investing if it's an extra 20, 30-minute meeting and sitting down, learning or walking through something, getting extra video, stuff like that.
Seems like Stevens has been a little bit limited coming off the knee injury from last year, but it seems like we're seeing a little bit more here lately. How much has he been able to do so far here this spring for you? What have you been able to see from him?
Yeah, so, at the beginning of spring, he was very, very limited the first few practices. We come back out of spring break, and it was, hey, we're going to give Steve Indy today. All right, did a great job through Indy, feels good. Okay, we're going to give him another period. And so we've really monitored his reps and built him up each day to where today, he probably got, I'd have to take a look at it, but probably around 30 reps at practice in really crucial situations of practice, game-like situations. So for him, he's definitely getting stronger, getting healthier, and looks faster out on the field.
Now that you've had 7-8 practices with Jared Greenfield as well, I know he's coming back. You weren't here for whatever transpired, but ultimately, what have you seen from him as a guy who's joining your room after spring break?
Yeah, very eager to learn, very eager to help his teammates. He's really had a growth mindset so far this spring, and I've been impressed the last couple of practices just with the way he's handled himself, and he's progressing. He kind of got a late start because he joined us in this new quarter, so really him hitting the books, right, and learning a lot of the defense that maybe our guys learned during those January, February months.
Do you feel like you've helped so far, 2/3 through spring, identified some of those havoc causers in the defensive back? I mean, when you're losing the guy who led the country in interceptions, do you feel like you've started to identify who the Ball Hog could be back there for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, anytime you lose some of the ball production that you got last year from Verone, then, hey, who's going to kind of fill into that role, right? And I think Verone, had the success he did from a ball production standpoint because he studied the game, right? Took major ownership as the general in the back end. And at the same time, right, he had that skill set. And so I think for us, we're developing that skill set right now, right? We're developing those guys like off the field, being that student of the game, and then on the field really focused on being communicators, being generals, to be in the right spot and do those things. So I think there's various guys, probably a lot of them that we've already mentioned, that could pop up and be maybe those ball hawks in the back end this year.
With your background in special teams coaching, how involved have you been with Coach Lorg in some of that stuff, or is that just solely his baby?
Yeah, no. So the most amazing part about the way we do special teams here is that we basically all have a piece of it. Coach Lorg says it all the time, right? It's not his, it's ours. And if you're here on a meeting day, we'll break up, right, special teams wise, and hey, this group of players is in this room, and this coach is coaching them on special teams units. So for kickoff, for instance, like I have just the 8s, right? Somebody else might have just the ones and 2s, right? And we're going through individual meetings with them. So we all have ownership in it. And same thing out there on the field, like we're all coaching our positions. Love the way that he's organized it. It's been very, very efficient for him, but he's been extremely successful doing it. So I've definitely learned a lot from him being here, and hopefully I've added some value too.
So are there special teams almost meeting rooms then? Like you guys meet independently? Is that different from most places?
Yeah, very, very different. So we'll meet as a group, we'll meet as a whole on some days, and then some days, boom, we'll split up and we'll be in 6 different meeting rooms. And I'll have my group of guys, right guards, right tackles, that I'm coaching for 15 minutes, as opposed to, hey, we're in one room, right, for 15 minutes. Coach is trying to coach Lord, or the special teams coordinator is trying to coach everybody, right, and the right guards, right tackles may only get 2 or 3 minutes of actual coaching. So you're really maximizing your time and you're really being efficient, which is something Coach Lanning, really, really values, but at the same time is really emphasized with us as coaches, positionally, individually as well.
Does anybody sort of establish themselves as the vocal leader of that secondary? Obviously, Verone did such a good job with that last year. I mean, Bennett mentioned Triquez the other day, somebody who stood out like that.
Yeah, Triquez definitely has. Brian Addison definitely has. Christian Gonzalez, you really don't ask the corners to do a lot of that, but he's definitely been a great communicator out there as well. Really, a lot of the guys, we've emphasized it a lot in the last couple of days, and you've really seen the communication spike up and guys really taking charge in those roles.
Everybody sees the length, the athleticism, obviously a really talented football player, but with the intangibles, what do you think kind of makes him special?
Oh, man, just his mindset. I think he doesn't really, hey, if he doesn't have the best play or the best series, he's able to bounce back pretty quick. He has a growth mindset, able to self-evaluate and kind of correct and take coaching, go back out there and fix it real quick. So he has some intangibles, right, that, you wish you wish all your players had. I wish I had, right? But doesn't get down on himself. He kind of, so what? What's next? So that's what I really have noticed, especially as of late with him.
With Brian's background on offense, do those instincts help in the back end?
Absolutely. Yeah, he's definitely got an idea, receiver-wise by splits, or maybe who's on, potentially what might come. I think, the more the less that he's, learning, right? So he's kind of been in this learning role in defense, learning the defense, getting comfortable in the defense. But I think he'll be able to even use that to his advantage more so, when he knows the defense like the back of his hand. And that's kind of what he's getting to right now. So
is that body type really attractive in the back end? Because the 6'3", both Triquez in here, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", long, rangy. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they both have great foot speed, right? But they also have length, and so you have a huge, you think of it like a receiver, you got a huge catch radius, right? So you can cover more ground, right? When you're covering tight ends, you don't get overwhelmed by those tight ends. Everybody always says, hey, DB should be able to cover a tight end, right? Well, I've seen plenty of physical tight ends, really box out and manhandle certain DBs. So it's always good when you got that length and that body type, when you're able to match up and use it to your advantage.
Can I talk about just how much time he's kind of splitting between you and working with Lorg and kind of bouncing all over the place? Is that as drastic with Bridges and Addison and some of those other guys, or is Bennett a unique case?
Yeah, so what we did initially is, with Brian and Triquez is, they were in the safety room, so they might be learning multiple positions. They might be playing both spots. Would have some differences within them, but we were dual training at both those spots, and then Triquez, recently has been working, cornerback as well. So for them. Yeah, I think definitely being able to stay in the same room has helped that process. With Bennett, we've spent different periods kind of mapping that out, or maybe, hey, this day, this is the emphasis, you'll meet with Coach Lord. But at the same time, like I said before, there's been times where, hey, he'll meet with them during meeting time, but then come back up here and get extra. So we've been able to make sure that from that standpoint, we leave no stone unturned.